Okay.
Well, David now has the memo back that I passed back to him.
What was the number of projects?
The number of projects listed, and he could speak to it because he has it in his hand. We were fortunate with the little school. When the little school was approved, built, and submitted finally in its final form to SBAB for approval, we were told that we would probably be waiting, I think it was 3-4 years for the first payment of reimbursement on the little school. In fact, it is 3 fiscal years, and the first payment will be received by the town of North Reading in the 4th quarter of fiscal 01, which is what we are currently in. So in the spring, we will be receiving, I think it's approximately $250,000 as our first reimbursement on the little school project. Now, the Hood School is listed as a 1998 or 1999 project. Right. The little school was a 97 project. The 98 list, I believe, is still seeking approval.
Well, just if I could, this document just came out. I received this today, and it's the updated list of fiscal 2001 school building assistance grants, and all grants fall into either 1, 2, or 3 categories. And category 1 is an urban project, or for a school district that is trying to deal with a desegregation, or the solution is a desegregation building. For example, in 1999, there were 7 projects on the approved list for category 1. And when you now look in the updated list, there are 29 additional projects in category 1. Category 1 projects will always be funded more first, and their funding reimbursement rates under the CARD regulations are running around 90%. So, for example, many of us were really interested as superintendent as to why the community of Milton received 90% for some extensive building projects, but the reason is that this deals with a desegregation issue. Category 2 projects for which North Reading would qualify on the first list, and this is the list that the Hood School is on, ranging from projects submitted in 1997 through the current year. There are 39 projects on that list. North Reading's Little School project is already in a reimbursement mode. And then to add to that, there are 1 through 153 projects on the approved list. These are projects that have already been submitted for approval and have received notification that they will ultimately receive reimbursements. Now, our Hood School project, out of 153 projects, the Hood School project is number 52, and it was submitted back in '99, a year ago. So one can only conclude that there will be a phenomenal number of projects that will come up for submission this June 1, 2001. And again, it's important to point out that the proposed project for a new elementary school on Swan Pond, or at Swan Pond, has already been determined to be an approvable project. It never gets, it's not approved until the application is submitted by June 1st, 2001. But what approvable means is that it has met all of the tests of the current regulations: school building needs conferences, site visits, approval of initial plans, educational program, approval of educational specifications. We are on the track to approve and submit by June 1st, and will be on this list, as will be many other projects. And it's also important to know that this project, when it gets on the list, will receive a guaranteed reimbursement of 64%. The new regulations as proposed, and as Mrs. Colella indicated, show a substantial drop in the base rate. And in fact, the proposed regulations state that each year these rates will be adjusted and that it will be subjected to economic factors within the community as the base rate. And as Mrs. Colella pointed out, since the original proposal came out last winter, North Reading's rate has been adjusted even further downward.
David, I'd just like to shift gears a little bit and address one of the questions which has been raised over and over again in relation to the school population, and are we addressing a bubble type situation here rather than looking long range, and what is our anticipated enrollment, how is that derived, and are we building to the maximum amount that we expect, or are we, how do we arrive at this?
Well, that's a very good question. Under any school building project, there is a requirement that you submit 10-year projections for enrollments. We did this around the little school and the Hood School, and certainly have done that in terms of the new school. 10-year projections are based on a number of factors. We look very closely at the numbers of births in a community. We derive our information from census data, town reports, and other demographic information that the Commonwealth has. We then project out what will be the number of children entering kindergarten 5 years later. We adjust that because we have seen over years and years, each year these projections are done. I've done them for 6 years. Dr. O'Donoghue, the former superintendent, did them for 24 years. We see that there's been great fluctuation due to increases in overall population here in North Reading. The bottom line is that we are exceeding our kindergarten enrollments by 200 students. And then when children come into the first grade, there's always a further increase because many children, a certain percentage of our kindergarten age children are in full day extended programs in private kindergartens. So that there's a % increase when they come into the first grade. Right now we're looking at general class sizes in our, total class sizes in our elementary schools of in excess of 200 students. We track that out and project that out all the way grade to grade through our high school. There has always been a traditional decrease from grade 8 to 9 because a certain percentage of our students will seek non-public or private education in surrounding schools. And we factor that into our 10-year projections. The 3 building projects, the little school, the Hood School, and the new school project, were always based on 10 classrooms per grade. What we're finding, if you were to look at the current distribution of classes in our free elementary schools, that we have 11 or 12. My sense is that when the new school is built, there will be some minor adjustments in terms of moving populations of students from the Little and Hood School districts to make sure that there is an even distribution of students between the schools. The new school is designed to have 4 classrooms per grade, and the Hood School and the Little School are designed to have 3 classrooms per grade. And based on the 10-year projections, based on the number of students coming into our schools, that number should adequately meet our needs.
So just one point is that it's my understanding that we're not building to the max. In other words, we're going to be pinched even with the new facility, but we're anticipating it plateauing at some point where the new school facilities as proposed and as supposed to be built will then adequately handle it. So I mean, some of the concern of the community I've heard is that we're building to the max, we're building to the maximum number of pupils, and that's not the case.
Not at all. The school committee actually Monday night, actually for all of the month of September, has been talking about what's going to happen in September. And there is a proposal to add 4 additional modular classrooms at some point, whether breaking them apart at the batch, the Hood, or the little school, and or additionally taking other facilities say at the Hood School that's currently under construction, or at the little school that was recently completed, taking the art room, taking the computer lab, taking the library, and using it for first grade or kindergarten or fifth grade classes. This is what we're doing at the Batchelder School now. We are using our library for classrooms. We simply don't have the room. So this is both a short-term and a long-term. We're not building to the maximum at all.
Mrs. Colon.
Some additions to going back to the original enrollment discussion. In 1995-96, when the elementary school building committee was first formed, and we started our work in November of '95, Dr. Troughton gave us a lot of information to begin with, and one of which was his enrollment projections. And not that we didn't believe him, but we decided as a committee that we would take those enrollment projections, fold them up, put them in an envelope, seal them, and put them away. And we asked our architect to start over. You don't know North Reading, we want enrollment projections. And which architectural firms building schools normally do. Those enrollment projections came back from our architect. We opened the invisible envelope, took out David's enrollment projections, and they were virtually equal. So it was a check and balances on those. But there is another thing, excuse me, that affects enrollment, not enrollment, but space needs, and it's program change. We talked about the high school being renovated 10 years ago. It's prior to education reform. There have been a lot of programmatic changes in high school curriculum and curriculum across the educational system. For example, in the high school, we used to have shop, auto shop, metal shop, wood shop, home ec, which probably that nomenclature still appears on some plans for the high school. Well, they don't exist anymore. But that doesn't mean that the space is empty because home ec doesn't happen. Those areas are now reading, art, CAD/CAM, educational technology, all of the program changes that have taken place since the high school was originally was renovated 10 years ago. So you can't just discuss enrollment, and we are not building for build-out. There are going to be changes that are going to have to be. There is no way that we want to take the batch, which has music in actually one of the 4 classrooms in the trailers now. There are 4 classrooms, 3 are 5th grade classrooms. The 4th is music. So while the 5th grade classroom over here is studying social studies, you've got a group of children, and it could be anywhere from kindergarten through 4th grade, singing and playing instruments, from drums to bells to whistles, and with young children's voices harmonizing, while 5th grade students are doing math and social studies, and et cetera. One thing we don't want to do is put that music classroom back on a 10-by-10 rug in the cafeteria, where it was until 2 years ago. That's unacceptable in any educational environment. So you cannot just look at enrollment, you just cannot look at, you have to look at program change also across the board.
One of the things in relation to the today, the near future, today, this coming September, or this coming June and September, when we look at the next coming year, the school committee just discussed Monday night for more modular, for additional modular classrooms, which I guess comes over to Howard Solomon, who's the chairman of the Historic District Commission, whose commission obviously had to grant some sort of special dispensation for the inclusion of those modulars in the historic district. And again, you can explain what the time frame was and what the expectations were, and then you can probably project what you might feel the reception would be as far as any